Hello, YouTube friends. Welcome to my channel. My name is Raisa Giselle, and this is Portal to the Heart. Today's an off day for me as it's raining outside. I just came back from doing laundry, and I'm extremely exhausted. I'm mentally exhausted, physically exhausted, and probably even spiritually exhausted. And us as human beings, us as parents, us as single beings with things you would constantly have to do, even those of us who have ADHD or some sort of neurodivergency. Um, Sometimes you have to do things that you don't really want to do. And this is actually the one thing I do want to do today is the video. Everything else I didn't want to do, but I still had to do them anyways. And it just had me thinking of how do you show up to yourself? How do you continue a commitment that you've made, not just to yourself, but to an online community, to your kids, to the world, to whatever it is that you made a commitment to? How do you show up when you don't necessarily want to? There are people who do have to show up to work even if they don't want to. Some people show up to their jobs even when they're just sick and they're physically unable to, um, a lot of the times because they don't really have a choice. Because if they do have a choice to not show up and recover, they would. But a lot of people do work certain jobs that they don't have time off. And if you don't work, you don't get paid. And this is just something that kind of hurts my heart a little bit because of talking to me, and it was better for her to be on camera. And even like when my mom or someone that loves me would call me and they would want to see my face, so I would be like, oh, my camera's not working, or some silly excuse like that, because I just wasn't feeling comfortable enough on the camera. But this is the whole reason why I'm making this videos, is to feel more comfortable on the camera and to learn to not judge myself as much based on the way I look or the way I'm seeing myself. And this is something that I learned even through my psychology class, was and even before then, I had already known this from way back in the 90s or the early 2000s. I knew that the way I see myself is not necessarily the way someone else would see me. And I don't know how I look towards someone else. I only know how I look to myself. But what became really interesting on my psychology class that I learned was that one of the first doctors that did um, an actual operation on a person, and back in those times, they needed to have like some sort of actual reason to do these kinds of operation. Yeah, so these operations, which are basically just plastic surgeries, they were done only through needs. So someone had to like have a legitimate need to have that type of operation. And the case that I read was this woman. I forget what exactly it was that she had, that she needed to have a plastic surgery. I can't remember if it was like something in her nose that prohibited her from breathing correctly. But anyhow, she had a huge scar, and the doctor removed that. He did the plastic surgery for her to be able to live comfortably. And when she first saw herself, she saw herself still with the scar. She didn't see how the plastic surgery had removed it and it had corrected the deformity or whatever it was that she had. And that's what the psychology book was talking about, was that because her mind still saw herself as a person with that deformity, even though she had had a plastic surgery and had gotten it removed and fixed, she still didn't see herself as the brand new version of her. And this is also one of the reasons why I want to work on losing weight, because right now I am overweight, and I have never been overweight, but I've had a weird relationship with weight itself, where when I was really young I was extremely skinny, and I came to America and just extremely skinny. Then I don't know if it was like my grandmother or someone just was like, well, you need to gain some weight. And I started getting some vitamins that gave me more of an appetite. Then I started gaining weight. Then I was too fat. So I was never like, well, according to them, if you see pictures, I was never fat. But it was never like a healthy relationship with just the way I see myself in general. So I want to do some mirror work, meditations, and rewiring of the brain and the way I see myself before I even start losing the weight, because I know that if I continue to see myself this way, it doesn't matter how much weight I lose in the physical realm, my mental is still going to see me the way I see me. Um, So, yeah, this is the reason why I was never comfortable on camera. And even just like a week ago, my daughter was playing around with some pictures. And I say, oh, do that with me. Because she was doing like some, oh, if you were this thing, or, if, like if you were to look like this. And she was messing around with some like editing thing. And then my oldest one says, "Well, I don't have a lot of pictures of you." My youngest one goes, "But why?" And then my oldest goes, "Because mommy doesn't like being on camera. She doesn't like taking pictures." And yeah, so I do want to work on stuff like that and be more comfortable with who I am. I do feel like I love myself deep, deep down inside. I love the way I am. I love who I am. I know myself well enough to know that I'm a lovely person, but the physical aspect of myself is not something that I currently love. And that's something that I do want to work on. And it was very interesting because even on YouTube, I don't know if it was Watch Mojo or somebody that I watch a lot on YouTube. They did a video. It could have been someone else. I don't know 100% if it was Watch Mojo, but they did a little video essay on what beauty is, and they showed clips of old school celebrities, women mostly, asking them what they think beauty is and if they feel like that they're beautiful. And it was people like Marilyn Monroe and just prevalent celebrities like that. I can't remember if Elizabeth Taylor was on it, but it was interesting because a lot of them responded with, well, I have big thighs, or they mentioned a lot of insecurities that they had. So they didn't really consider themselves as beautiful, which is insane to think. And it had me thinking, like, well, maybe beauty is, because I do believe, like, there's somebody's beautiful or handsome to someone else. My idea of beauty doesn't mean it's the same for someone else's idea of beauty. And I think a lot about like what society puts in us as what beauty really is and what beauty really isn't. And not too long ago, I was writing on my journal, and I was just writing about what I felt about, you know, what I consider myself to be. And I ended up naming it um, Beauty Over Soul or something like that, which, goes to show like people only see the outside of you, they don't really see the inside of you. So even if you're beautiful on the inside, they can't see that. But anyhow, this is me showing up to myself with my imperfection, beautiful self, beautiful inner self, hoping that my outer self will also show the beauty that my inner self has. Well, thank you for listening to me. I hope anyone who listens to this does feel themselves out to be beautiful, because we all come to this earth with a beautiful soul, with a beautiful heart. And it's not up until like trauma comes to us that it closes up um, our hearts. And a lot of the people who aren't, or somebody would consider not being a beautiful souled person or a beautiful hearted person, is because they experienced so much trauma that they closed up their heart. and their beautiful soul isn't able to be seen. So I hope whoever listens to this today does a little bit of mirror work, a little bit of journaling, a little bit of inner exploration, and finds the beauty within their hearts again. And with this, I take off and I say, have a good day. Thanks.